The United States southern border, long a battleground for national sovereignty, stands transformed in June 2025 under President Donald Trump's administration. Customs and Border Protection reported a historic low of 6,070 apprehensions, with only 137 on a single day, and 0 releases into the country. This achievement, lauded by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, contrasts sharply with the Biden administration's tenure, which allegedly orchestrated an invasion through deliberate neglect. This article examines the Biden administration's culpability, Trump's decisive actions, his prior failures, and the urgent need for sustained citizen-driven efforts to secure America's demographic and cultural future. Biden's treasonous legacy. The Biden administration's border policies facilitated an unprecedented influx of illegal aliens, with Customs and Border Protection recording nearly 205,000 encounters in June 2024 alone. Under President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, the border was left porous, enabling over 10,000 gotaways monthly. These actions, tantamount to treason, undermine national security and economic stability. The administration's expansion of the CBP One app and parole programs invited mass migration, betraying American citizens. Noem's assertion that the border is now closed to lawbreakers underscores the Biden administration's deliberate sabotage, demanding accountability through indictments and prosecutions. Trump's border triumph. In June 2025, Trump's administration achieved a 90% reduction in gotaways and 25,243 nationwide encounters, the lowest since Customs and Border Protection's formation in 2002. Executive orders, immigration and customs enforcement raids, and resumed border wall construction have restored order. Noem credits these measures, alongside operations targeting criminal aliens in sanctuary cities like Los Angeles, for having apprehensions from May to June. This success reflects Trump's commitment to national sovereignty, empowering Border Patrol to protect communities. The absence of releases into the interior marks a stark reversal of Biden's reckless policies, vindicating Trump's hardline stance. Trump's first-term failures. Despite current successes, Trump's first presidency laid the groundwork for the border crisis. The invasion was planned and partially implemented during his initial term, with inadequate deportations failing to address the existing 30 million illegal aliens. Trump's hesitation to fully leverage executive authority allowed vulnerabilities to fester, enabling Biden's subsequent betrayal. While Trump's current measures are commendable, they mirror actions he could have taken earlier. The necessity to now deport both new and long-standing illegal populations underscores his earlier inaction, highlighting a critical lesson. Decisive leadership must be proactive to prevent crises, not merely reactive. The citizens' burden and future imperative. With Trump's tenure finite, citizens must intensify efforts to sustain border security. The June 2025 data, showing a 95% drop in crossings from Biden's averages, demands permanence through legislative and civic action. Elected officials must escalate deportations, targeting not only illegal aliens but also anchor babies to restore demographic balance. Citizens should pressure lawmakers and consider political office to ensure future administrations continue Trump's policies. The Biden administration's unpunished crimes serve as a warning. Without vigilant oversight, America risks further betrayal. A unified, proactive citizenry is essential to safeguard the nation's future. Conclusion. The Trump administration's border security achievements in June 2025 mark a historic restoration of national integrity, contrasting with the Biden administration's treasonous neglect. Customs and Border Protection's record-low apprehensions and gotaways reflect decisive leadership, yet Trump's first-term failures remind us of missed opportunities. The Biden administration's unprosecuted crimes demand justice, while citizens must drive sustained action to deport illegal aliens and secure America's demographic future. Trump's success is a foundation, but only relentless civic engagement will prevent future invasions, ensuring a sovereign, prosperous nation for generations to come.
The Big Beautiful Bill, a cornerstone of President Donald Trump's domestic agenda, stands at a critical juncture in the House of Representatives as of July 2, 2025. This multi-trillion-dollar legislative package promises transformative investments in border security, military strength, and tax relief, fulfilling campaign pledges to secure the nation and deport illegal immigrants. However, internal Republican divisions, driven by fiscal conservatives and moderates, threaten to derail its passage. The bill's inclusion of fraud, waste, and abuse, pork-laden projects and deficit-expanding measures, has ignited fierce opposition, particularly from the House Freedom Caucus. Despite these imperfections, the bill's passage is non-negotiable to address urgent national priorities, exposing the corruption and incompetence of a Congress unable to prioritize the public good over personal agendas. Fiscal conservative resistance and the debt crisis. The House Freedom Caucus, led by figures like Representative Chip Roy, vehemently opposes the Senate's version of the bill, which adds $1 trillion more to the deficit than the House's May iteration, projecting a $3.3 trillion debt increase over a decade. This resistance stems from a principled stance against unchecked spending, as the national debt surpasses $36 trillion with no feasible repayment plan under current fiscal policies. The caucus demands deeper cuts to Medicaid and the elimination of wasteful projects, arguing that the bill perpetuates a cycle of fraud, waste, and abuse. Their objections highlight a systemic issue. Congress's addiction to pork projects enriches elite investment firms like BlackRock and Vanguard, which amass wealth through government debt schemes, hoarding over $47 trillion in assets while America drowns in liabilities. Moderate concerns and political ineptitude. Moderate Republicans, wary of political repercussions, resist the Senate's aggressive Medicaid cuts, which could strip coverage from 12 million Americans by 2035. Representatives like David Vallado argue these cuts betray Trump's promise to target only waste, fraud, and abuse, risking healthcare access for vulnerable constituents. This discord reveals a deeper incompetence within the Republican conference, which, despite months of preparation, failed to craft a cohesive bill free of contentious provisions. Speaker Mike Johnson's inability to secure votes, with at least 2 hard, no, votes and weather-related absences complicating matters, underscores a party careening towards self-inflicted failure. The refusal to exclude divisive pork projects from the outset reflects a corrupt legislative process prioritizing personal gain over national security. The urgent need for passage and a radical solution. Despite its flaws, the big beautiful bill is indispensable for funding border security, mass deportations, and military enhancements, priorities endorsed by voters in Trump's election. The bill's delay, risking a return to the Senate for further debate, would expose Republican ineptitude and undermine public trust. Congress must set aside its squabbles and pass the bill, as the debt crisis, exacerbated by this legislation, demands a bolder solution. Liquidating the assets of investment giants like BlackRock and Vanguard, which profit from America's debt, could eliminate the $36 trillion liability by redistributing their $47 trillion in holdings. This radical plan, though politically contentious, offers a path to fiscal salvation, allowing the nation to move forward unburdened by the excesses of a corrupt financial system. Conclusion. The big beautiful bill, though marred by fraud, waste, and abuse, represents a critical opportunity to secure America's borders and strengthen its military. The House Freedom Caucus's fiscal concerns and moderates' resistance to Medicaid cuts highlight a Congress mired in corruption and incompetence, unable to craft a clean bill. Yet, the urgency of national security demands its passage, even as the $36 trillion debt looms. By liquidating the wealth of investment firms profiting from government overspending, America can address its fiscal crisis and reset its economic trajectory. Congress must act swiftly to pass the bill and pave the way for transformative reforms, proving that the will of the people supersedes the greed of the elite.
The restoration of fairness in women's sports marks a triumph of reason over ideological chaos, as the University of Pennsylvania's July 2025 decision to ban transgender athletes and erase Lia Thomas's records demonstrates. Thomas, a biological male, dominated female swimmers in 2021 to 2022, exposing the absurdity of policies permitting men to invade women's spaces. This correction, driven by President Trump's administration, rectifies a deliberate cultural sabotage orchestrated during the fraudulent Biden presidency. Yet, the necessity of federal intervention reveals a deeper failure of local leadership, a legacy of Trump's ineffective first term, which allowed such schemes to fester unchecked. The planned transgender incursion. The transgender athlete crisis was no accident but a calculated assault on American values, hatched under Trump's first presidency. Lia Thomas, a mediocre male swimmer reborn as a women's champion, epitomized this orchestrated farce. Enabled by Biden's 2021 policies, which expanded Title IX to include gender identity, Thomas's 2022 NCAA victory robbed female athletes of rightful accolades. Academic studies, such as a 2020 analysis in sports medicine, confirm male physiological advantages persist post-hormone therapy, undermining fair competition. This movement, alongside Black Lives Matter and COVID policies, was strategically planned during Trump's tenure, exploiting his administration's distraction with media antics and golf. Trump's first-term negligence. Trump's initial presidency was a masterclass in missed opportunities, allowing the transgender agenda to take root. While he golfed and sparred with journalists, subversive forces within and beyond his administration laid the groundwork for the 2020 election theft and subsequent cultural upheavals. The New York Times reported in 2025 that Penn's compliance with NCAA rules during Thomas's era was unchallenged, as Trump failed to enforce biological definitions of sex. His inaction emboldened radicals, leaving female athletes vulnerable. Only persecution post-presidency spurred Trump's 2024 re-election, driven by a need to atone for his earlier failures. Federal triumph, local shame. Trump's second term has delivered where his first faltered. The February 2025 executive order banning transgender athletes from women's sports, coupled with the suspension of $175 million in Penn's federal funding, forced compliance, as ESPN noted. Penn's agreement to restore female athletes' records and apologize, lauded by swimmers Paula Scanlon and Riley Gaines, underscores this victory. Yet, the absence of state and local action, mayors, governors, and sheriffs stood idle, exposes a national leadership vacuum. Conservative states, complicit in allowing such violations, share blame for necessitating federal overreach to protect women's dignity. The failure of American governance. The transgender athlete debacle reflects a broader collapse of American governance, where weak, complicit officials enabled cultural decay. Philadelphia councilmember's defense of Thomas, as reported by CBS Philadelphia, reveals a lingering communist undercurrent prioritizing ideology over fairness. Governors and sheriffs, particularly in conservative strongholds, failed to arrest perpetrators of this moral crime, leaving girls exposed in locker rooms. These leaders, alongside those who tolerated COVID fraud and Black Lives Matter chaos, must face criminal scrutiny for their inaction, as their cowardice prolonged this national embarrassment. Conclusion. Trump's decisive action against transgender athletes redeems his tarnished legacy, restoring biological truth to women's sports. However, this victory exposes a shameful truth: America's political system, riddled with lazy, criminal officials, required a president's pen to end an obvious injustice. The Athletic reported Penn's swift compliance, yet local leaders' silence during the crisis demands accountability. Future progress hinges on prosecuting complicit officials and empowering communities to reject ideological insanity. Trump's intervention, while heroic, underscores a nation betrayed by its own, necessitating a reckoning for those who failed to act.